Aloha. Today I wanted to expand kind of quickly on the importance of dreams and the importance of thought and just that whole time and energy as a whole. Really kind of just step back from the engaged reality of information and the storyline as a whole, but really just look at the zoomed out perspective of the energetic body and experience being energy and energy being part of the soul journey, and how much energy it is that you access within your reality will determine how much your experience will need to be anchored in this space, or basically the work that needs to be done, and how that relates to the overall frequencies, the story as a whole that we look at, like with fear and love, how more of your relationship, more of your reality is lived and understood. You get more energy, you get more understanding, understanding, and overstanding from like a teacher that is like, if you're in school, you're gonna learn more from a teacher who's cool and funny and engaging, interesting, as opposed to a teacher that you won't like like an asshole teacher, or a teacher who doesn't like you, talks shit about you, just treats you a certain way, or is not really at all engaging, just like holds you down. You're actually scared of that teacher. Whatever it is, just energetically looking at it, you can see that more life is within one space, and less life, less experience is in the other space. And the norm, the cultural and the cultural and societal norm of this moment in the so-called mainstream, or the majority of the population who is within the colonial program, and you are with that, you are a part of that, whether you see it or not, whether you look at it or not. You can think of yourself as, oh, super spiritual. I'm like ultra spiritual, so I'm not part of that reality. That's just living in a closet. It's another version of fear. It's another version of separation. And this whole world that we are consumed with, on one level, if you're totally into that reality and like, oh, this is what's going on, because I used to be totally consumed with that, and focused on what my eyes were seeing. Just like in relationships, people are heavily locked into the materialistic versions of reality instead of going into their soul. So once you get that locked into that reality, then you're in a sense separating yourself and having a judgment or an expectation on your own soul driven reality, and now seeing the reality as more the physical reality. And then at the same time, you're doubling down by not seeing the purpose, the beauty in your ability to inhabit a physical vessel in this physical reality. So it's like no less than twice off, when you can be at least twice on, by not having any judgments or expectations on your physical vessel, which is a streamline, at least baseline starting point, or jumping point, or anchor point, and also activating your soul level experience. But this doesn't even get to, we don't even really, it's not normal to get to this space, because what's normal is to lock yourself into one version of reality. And excuse me, the norm is to do that through fear. So this is how we get separated from our own soul. We get separated from our own journey. I mean, you're not ultimately separated from your soul, but that connection gets um, energetically severed down to like the smallest of potentialities, to where you can see if you're completely just floating out in space, energetically, and allowing lower vibrating energies to inhabit your reality. This is what the fear. This is why the fear program is so dominant. This is why the fear program is so pumped out through the news, through the media, through the military-industrial complex. This is what the decolonization, or the colonization program is all about. This is why the system as a whole cannot decolonize, because they will be de-fearing or de-installing fear in people. People will start to see that the power grid as a whole as pretty much being powerless and based upon illusion. And that illusion can only take root if we've been locked into this reality over time for so long. Like generations of people have been separated from their dreams. So back to the energetic beginnings, these people got y'all so scared to even speak up about what's right. That's true. Like, I mean, once you're in, just like you can see in a dream, if you're in a dream and you get presented by something that is scary to you, then you'll wake up. That's basically running away from that dream. That's running away from that experience. When, if you were to engage within that reality, you would shift your consciousness. You would shift every body that you inhabit, which is everybody. You would shift that into the next space, whatever that is. And the more the collective and the individual is not at least psychologically facing those fears, then you will inhabit a space that is of a lower vibration. And this is why we get separated from our dreams. This is why you have an alarm clock. This is why you get triggered into waking up so quickly. This is why dreams are just like not part of the mainstream culture. This is why the distraction grid is so heavy. This is why movies are part of like your reality. Like, if you really think about it, like, movies are an actual installation. The TV show, the TV as a whole, it's an installation into, it's not natural, basically. It's not a natural thing. It's, and the same goes for the computer screen and the social media. This is an installation program, a focus grid. Your natural understandings of life, of your soul, of your family, of your culture, can come from the indigenous people were doing it in their own ways, with their dances, with their ceremony, with their storytellers, with their elders. That was the organic connection, and that has nothing to do with like hardware technology. It's soul based. It's generational. It goes back on and on and on, and it's heavily rooted in your dreams, in your soul interpretation of reality. So when we start to look at the fact that our entire reality is based upon us being hypnotized by an idea, hypnotized by frequencies, vibrations, constant flicker rates, constant being flickered into this reality of, this is what you need to be focused on. This is what you need to be pissed off about. This is what you need to be paying attention to. This is your life. This is what the military industrial and the prison industrial complex is about. This is why we have 13 years of so-called education. That's just 13 years of an 8-hour or however many hour a day television. School is just a real world ceremony. It's like you can understand sitting around a fire and the indigenous people sitting around a fire and telling stories. This is what school is. And since it's so dull and it's so based upon sucking your kids into the dead space, the zombified reality of conformity and fear, that they have to do it for a number of years. They're not teaching children anything. Children aren't learning anything. It's just straight up conformity and fear installations. And it's an excuse, how I see it, because I'm seeing dreams as being very, very, very important. A third of your life, a third of your energy, a third of your conscious awareness is being sucked into an idea of nothingness, and it's being systematically separated and severed when you understand, like, we have the alarm clock, so that is automatically telling you what reality is more important. Your conscious reality takes precedence over sleep, over your dreams, over everything that is there. Not saying that anyone is more important, just saying that stuff doesn't even exist. Dreams and a healthy sleeping space, that's not even part of the reality at all. It's all about work, it's all about school, it's all about following the rules, being successful here. Everything is heavily based upon the physical reality. And once you're locked into that grid, it gets you locked in with school and getting you emotionally engaged through each other. Like, so since everybody is in that like prison together pretty much, then you bond together. And then when you don't see it as a prison, as a psychological and a conscious prison anymore, then it just becomes normal. So this is what the education system is. And when it becomes normal, then you can polish it. It's like polishing that turd. You can polish it all the way up into the university system, into artificial intelligence, into transhumanism, into these so far separated from your reality by installing the theory of evolution, the theory of the Big Bang, the theory of the globe model, all these theories that are based upon lies, that are just based upon an idea of your reality, but not at all tapped into your soul. This is why psychedelics are outlawed, and even cannabis, which is a medicine, is even outlawed. So, and then even further than that, your food and your water is all garbage. It's all, and then you start to say, "Oh, that's okay, that's cool." You start to accept your reality. Acceptance. That's what it is. Once you start to accept how ridiculous this reality is, and accept how the prison system works, like in quotation marks, then you're basically creating your own mind control. And then you set that mind control up to your kids. And then going into the thought patterns of, or the frequencies of dreams, then, and how I relate to dreams is that first you have to face your fears. In order to experience your dreams, you have to understand that you're in a subconscious space, and any kind of, if you're heavily linked into your, or locked into your conscious reality, they're related. So if you have a lot of fear in your conscious reality, when you go to sleep and you're in your dreams, and you have a fear dream come up, or a nightmare, then you would automatically link back to your roots, your survival mode instincts, your roots. So I guess it would be kind of like tapping into your I never thought about this before, but tapping into your chakras in the subconscious reality. So if you have a heavy fear if you're uprooted and have a heavy fear in your conscious reality, then when you're in your subconscious sleeping experience, your dream space, then, and you don't face your fears in your conscious reality, then when you're in your nightmares, you also won't do that. So this is why you wake up and you go back to what's more comfortable, which is your conscious reality, or you go into another dream that's not as intense. But if you in your anchor space, in your slowest vibration, your physical reality, this place, if you have gotten to a point of understanding that you are more than the physical vessel, that you are actually the soul, which is beyond the physicality, then when you're in your subconscious dream space, you will be able to experience more. So you will have more power, you will have more anchors, you'll have more energetic potentialities to engage within that space, so you can actually bring more consciousness into your subconscious reality. Because really, when you start to bring in conscious linear perspectives, like paying attention and all that stuff, into a subconscious reality, you actually make it unstable. And this is what can wake you up. So this is why, like, sometimes I've woken up from grief, I've woken up from laughing, I've woken up from fear out of dreams. And it's really just your emotional space, it's your emotional reality. So that's kind of like the foundation of dreams. So when those emotions start to overtake your understanding of who and what you are ultimately, and you become the emotion as opposed to experiencing that emotion, then that's when it becomes unstable, because you're adding your conscious reality to your subconscious reality, which is not how it's designed. So when you have so much fear and so much distraction that is manipulated, when you have so much fear and distraction manipulating your conscious reality, then you can separate yourself. You can separate an individual from even wanting to tap into their subconscious reality. And that's a third of your life. When you sleep, a third of your life. So this is part of the separation program as a whole. This is why the family dynamics are being destroyed, to separate the man from the woman, or the father from the mother, which will just destroy the entire family. And then once that happens, then the child gets separated from the mother or the father, or both actually. And then once they are separated, then they are locked into, they need some kind of connection, they need some kind of family structure. And this is where the education system comes in. So you're surrounded by broken kids, other broken kids, in a broken system that is designed to fill the gaps. So this is fill the gaps that have been systematically installed into your reality. And this is why we are surrounded by television. This is why we have social media. This is why everybody's addicted to this stuff, is because we have so many gaps in our natural reality that we have to fill it with what we understand as to be normal. And normal is hip, normal is cool, you're part of the crew. So it's normal to have your wings clipped. It's normal to not fly. It's not normal to be flying around. This is why they call people crazy who think differently, or people who are really artistic. Like now, like whatever it is, like even, there's something wrong with people if you're not dull. Like if you think differently, something's wrong with you. That is a psychological program. That is a heavy duty enslavement. To have people do that is some heavy duty chains that are locked around every energy body that we inhabit. And it takes a long time. You have to do that generations upon generations. This is why kids normally come in here into this reality just like asking why all the time. Why? Because it goes against what is normal for them. They want to also understand. And a lot of the parents don't have these answers. So this is where the school comes in. So everywhere we turn, we have the codependency program is filling the gaps of the victimization program consciously and subconsciously. So it affects our dreams. So when you're constantly bombarded by fear and you're constantly separated from your ability to face fears, then you will shut down that reality of experience, at least observable. You're always dreaming. You just don't tap into the maximum energies excuse me, when you're normally not engaged in that space. So how I see it, I'm always observing it even further. You first go through fear, and in order to do that, you got to do it first in your conscious reality, at least psychologically, and then because there's steps, there's levels of it, and then after you transcend the fear space, then you start to challenge yourself. You start to go into challenges. So you engage in more dreams that are, how do I put it? They give you, they're more engaged with what you hold dear to you as like a challenge, emotional challenges, stepping outside of the emotional barriers into a more intellectual space. Because I don't really want to say intellectual, because it's still heavily emotionally rooted. But you have more of an engaging, challenging space when you're in that. When you transcend fear, you get more. It's hard to explain, to bring that in, because you're not concerned with fear. You're not concerned with that's better. You're not concerned with the emotional responses. Since you have no fear, you can be faced with a lot more challenge in your reality. And then that becomes your actual dream space, because a fear will come in and you'll automatically flip it, and you can stay in that dream. It's like holding space. So a giant dragon can come into your reality, and then most people will wake up. And then and then in that dream space, when that dragon comes there, most people wake up, and you don't wake up because you don't have that fear anymore. Now you have you have to face the challenge space of what the fuck are you gonna do with this dragon in your dream now. So once you get and then that's like another version of flying. And in our conscious reality, we are so feared of the maritime admiralty law system, and the whole system the system as a whole, that we're not even allowed to fly. Like being your artistic self, being able to experience or even feel tap into your soul in the conscious reality is almost taboo. It's pretty much taboo. The only ways people can have some kind of idea of that is religion, and that's like a bowl of cereal for breakfast, when you can have like a whole bounty of whatever kind of food for breakfast. It's like a bowl of cereal, like that kind of connection. At least you got some breakfast though. But it's, you know what I mean, in that space. So, but in this reality, like this man Jabbar Gibson, who stole this bus and picked up 70 people out of the flood in New Orleans and drove them to Houston. Something like that is like, this dude got charged, all this stuff, when when this is normal, like this is not only natural to want to help if you have the ability to do something like this, like taking the whole law and all that stuff out of it for the moment, for the observation of this moment. People are dying. People were flooded, dying. Kids, mothers, grandmothers, grandfathers, parents, families, entire families were down there flooded and dying. And nobody was moving because the fiat currency system has this, and the maritime admiralty system has this precedence over what your natural human response would be. First, get these fucking people out of these flooded waters. Oh no, we have to sign these papers. We got to do this. Oh, that's against the law. You guys shut the fuck up. Stop talking right now and let's get these people out of here. See, that whole mindset, we have been duped into the normal program and have separated ourselves from what is natural. It is natural to want to get your grandparents and children out of a fucking flooded environment. It is not natural to sit back next to all these vehicles and all this stuff and say, oh well, this is we're gonna get in trouble. Like, that is, it's so far from humanity. This is what this separation program is about. This is the slave state program. The system as a whole. This is why I say, when people are trying to defend the system, talking about the Constitution and all this other shit, the so-called forefathers, those are not your forefathers. This is why they fucking call them your fathers. They are not your fathers. These are enslavers. This whole program is this is why you have Alex Jones there. We're going to take our country. He's talking about all this truth. He's emotionally getting you engaged in it. And then you have the so-called alternative news, who is trying to intellectually get you engaged in the slave program. And then people who are in the mainstream news, they're just totally just floating in space, just like, well, just pump my brain full of something. Oh, something. Yes, good. I have something. I can talk about something. And then people who are like, well, that something's full of shit. I'm going to get alternative news. Oh, good. More something. Yeah. Get emotional, people, in the alternative news. Oh, this is good. Things are getting positive. Same thing goes for the new age, so-called conscious movement of information, but still talking about politics and technology and all this stuff as if it's going to be the future. This is not what it's based upon. That is straight up mind control. If it's still within the enslavement program, that is a mind control. To Alex Jones, to even some of these so-called conspiracy people talking about, oh, Hillary Clinton is this and Hillary Clinton, and I'm gonna put David Icke in there too, because as much crazy shit as he's been talking, and I don't mean crazy as in like crazy, but it's like intense is a better word. But he's talking, when Brexit hit, he was talking about, we did it. What the fuck you mean we did it? Who? And did what? No. So you can understand you can understand more about people with what they also don't talk about. Which is why I come down so hard on the New Age movement, or the New Age whatever, because they're heavily based in not talking about some stuff. They're heavily based in not looking at a lot of information, not looking at a lot of perspectives in order to hold up those comfortable perspectives and separate themselves. That's no different than the education system. You can just call it the New Age education system. It's a conformity. You are conforming to love and light. And if you step outside of this love and light box, you're an outsider. Something is wrong with you. Don't you believe in unicorns and fairies and mermaids and I can understand all that stuff and look at all that stuff and also look at the other stuff and also not be consumed by, not being weighed down by it. Like, that is also a reality. That reality is being manipulated to not be understood and tapped into, because that is another comfort level. Another control grid they're calling comfort. It's not. It's ultimately apathy. It leads up to this being illegal. People getting a bus, which is just a way to move human souls out of a flooded, dead environment. He had to hotwire this bus and get them out of there. When it's the same thing with printing money, how they can just print money and then still have all these homeless people on the streets, still have all this shit. The system itself is more important, has taken precedence over the human soul. This is the soulless separation program. It separates you from your dreams, separates you from your culture, separates you from your family, separates you from your history, separates you from the obvious truth that's in front of you, separates you from your willpower, separates you from the Most High as a whole, separates you from everything under the guise of being informed, under the guise of being connected. This is what social media is. It's not to connect people. It's to install an idea of being informed. But since there's so much information on there and it's so overwhelming on the internet, and we've been so soaked from information for so many decades before now, we've had nothing. Now the internet seems like everything. Information is everything. Social media is everything. But if you don't connect those dots of what that information is and the psychological programming, the conditioning, the colonial setup behind that, which is the same program of why you didn't have any information before the internet, if you don't connect those dots, then you're just going to fall into another crater, another box. And this is what all these programs are. It's just the religious, financial, and the military-industrial complex. These are all programs. These are all straight-up programs. And we have feared ourselves away from experiencing our soul. We're afraid of our own experience, our own fire. And before that, we're largely separated from it. We don't even know it exists, because we've traded in our fire for a microwave and a smartphone. It's our brains and our willpower. It's not ours anymore. That's an artificial intelligence. And once that happens, you can enslave an individual, and you can enslave an entire population. So back to the fire and the dreams, or basically that's what it is. Like, if you don't have any fire, you won't be able to fly. If you won't be able to face your fears, you won't be able to face your challenges, and then you won't be able to fly. This happens consciously, and this happens in your dream space. If you're scared of flying in your conscious reality, or in your subconscious dream space, if you're scared of flying because you haven't understood, you haven't felt, the only way you can fly in a dream is if you realize that you're in a dream, or you wake up in, because I've taken off. I've realized I was in a dream, and then just and was like, holy shit, I can fly right now. And then flown many times, and you could just lift off. And other dream space, which is normally what happens, is you just appear in a flying space. Like, you just become aware in the middle of flying. That's the normal space. But a deeper way to do it, like, is to be just in a dream, hanging out, looking around, and then all of a sudden you realize that you can fly, and then you fly. But if you are so bombarded by these heavy weights, this heavy energy, then you won't be able to. Like, music is flying, art is flying. True connection to your soul and your family and your culture, your ceremony, your psychedelics, going into that space, that's actually flying. This is why this stuff is illegal. So that's basically it I wanted to put out for this video, is kind of focus in on that energy of who and what we are beyond the movie script and the physical, like, reality of, like, oh, what is this? From the outside in, we observe it, instead of from, like, the inside out. Like, when we start to anchor ourselves from the inside out, then that's when you can tap into your real fire. And that's just kind of like what I wanted to share with this. So thank you for joining me, and until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.